is May.
And my name is Nicoline.
And our science fair is called Don't Mess With Our Groundwater.
All over the world, people throw trash in nature, and no one picks it up again. But do we really know what the consequences are, and would we stop if we knew?
In our science fair, we investigated what consequences throwing trash and waste in the nature has on our groundwater. Groundwater is our living stones, and we use it every day, multiple times a day. We cannot simply live without it. In Denmark, we're really lucky to have some of the cleanest groundwater, and we're very proud of it. However, if we keep throwing batteries and other trash in nature and other places that's wrong, it will not stay clean forever.
Especially batteries are a big problem. Maybe you've seen the commercial in TV where a woman finds a battery in the bin and tells her husband, "Don't fuck with my groundwater." Well, in our experiment, we tested the effects of batteries in the groundwater, but that's for later. So why is it so important to keep the groundwater clean?
Well, as I mentioned before, groundwater for us is our most important resource. For us to have access to clean water is an important need both for us, the animal kingdom, on land and in water, and of course our plants. The clean water for us has a big influence on our daily life. We use it multiple times a day, if not more. We use it for cleaning, bathing, drinking, and 1,000 other things. I'm pretty sure you can mention some of them. From the waterworks, the clean water gets pumped up and sent through pipes to houses, schools, swim halls, and hospitals, and many other places.
97% of our drinking water is gathered from the underground. Our groundwater is so clean when we drag it up that it doesn't need to go through a cleaning process before being pumped out to the user. However, it will not stay this way for very long if we don't start thinking more about what we put where. For an example, if you bought a can of paint, then used 3/4 of it, and didn't need the rest, most people would turn it in for deposit. But there are people out there who would just throw it in the trash can and never think about how much damage it can cause. After being transported to the incineration plant, the place where our trash is burnt, it's burnt with all the other trash. When paint is burned, it leads out lots of health-damaging chemicals. But that's a whole other problem. When the paint remainders have been burnt, it's put and buried in the ground, like all other trash. However, it's not supposed to be there. After some years, or maybe even less, the paint can will leak, and the paint will sink into the underground. Can you imagine that in maybe 50 years or so, the water that we drink might have a small percentage of paint in it? In the end, it can be damaging to the body, even though it's such a small percentage.
Many people, as mentioned, throw their batteries in the trash can. When they then reach the incineration plant, they're burnt and buried in the ground. When it rains, the burnt and crushed leftovers of batteries sink into the ground, and eventually it ends up in the groundwater. Therefore, we really need to stop throwing the wrong things in the wrong places.
In our experiment, we wanted to find out how our groundwater is affected by different things that end up in the nature. Things like, for example, batteries, windshield wash, and other chemicals. Our idea was to contaminate water, then irrigate some plants with it to see how the plants react and to find out what our future plants might be like.
Okay, so as you can see in the pictures, we have 3 different plants, A, B, and C. So we took 3 containers and cut them all in half. The first half should represent our groundwater system, and the others where we sowed sunflower seeds in them. In number A, we sowed grass, and that was supposed to simulate the clean groundwater cycle as how it should look. The water we watered with was clean, and that was because we wanted to compare the others with it. In B, we made a mix of turpentine, windshield wash, engine oil, and petrol, and poured in 50 milliliters of that to simulate the kind of waste we unconsciously make by driving a car. Say your car is a bit dirty, and you spray your windshield with windshield wash. The windshield wash will eventually end up on the asphalt because of it being washed away by the rain, and then the windshield wash ends up in the groundwater. The windshield wash is now part of a groundwater cycle, and by this experiment we wanted to find out if it benefited the groundwater and our plants or not.
In number C, we put 4 different batteries. Many more people than you might think throw their old used batteries in the trash can. This is bad because when the trash you throw in the trash can end up at the incineration plant, where it's burned and after that buried in the ground. As mentioned before, after a very short period of time, these batteries will leak and the metals in them will sink into the underground, into our groundwater, and become a part of the groundwater cycle as well. Our experiment took a lot of care, and there were many different steps for each container. So we decided to make a small video of us taking care of it.
Okay, so as you can see here, we started by measuring the plants. We did that, and I took the measurements, and after that we put it in a table. You can see over by our conclusion and observation.
We actually had 9 plants all in all because we did the experiment 3 times, but we only have these 3 with us today. Now we take the water we have here, and you can see this is A, the clean one, and we irrigate the plants with it.
It might seem kind of yellow on the quality, but it would be the cleanest for you to drink compared to all the others.
Yeah. So number B is where we put turpentine, windshield wash, engine oil, and petrol.
It might also look kind of clean, if not cleaner than the other one, but it kind of has like a white dots in it, which is all the chemicals from the engine oil. Well, as you can see, it smelled kind of bad, if not really bad. That would depend on which day we took it.
Yeah. In number C, we put the 4 different batteries. We have a picture of the batteries here.
It might not be so clear to see because the quality isn't the best, but if you imagine cola, that you would basically have the look of it, not the smell though, just the look of it.
And now we take the mix of turpentine, windshield wash, petrol, and engine oil, and pour in 50 milliliters or half a deciliter in the mix because it just ran out with the water every time, so we had to pour in some new. Yes, okay, second.
So, we soon began noticing small differences in our experiment. For example, we noticed that B, as we mentioned, had a very bad smell from the start. You would actually think it's chemical-y, but surprisingly it wasn't. It had more of a rotten smell, as if something had just gone bad a couple of days before.
We also noticed that only A grew algae in the water tank. As mentioned, A was the cleanest of them all in terms of chemicals and metals, so that's probably why. And we quickly noticed that B grew the tallest, you can see this one, and C grew the smallest.
So, a conclusion of this experiment that, of course, you can see B is the best growing plant. In our hypothesis, we wrote exactly the opposite, that we thought B wouldn't become as tall as the other ones, but surprisingly it did. That's because of all the chemicals we fed it. However, the reason is because, like I said, all the chemicals. The petrol and engine oil, or the gasoline, we fed it, got washed away by the turpentine and the windshield wash, leaving the soil perfect for growing plants, and we had it in a greenhouse, so the temperature was just perfect. As we expected from our hypothesis, C of course became the smallest, and the leaves, as you can see, were hanging. There were even holes in some of them, and they had a withered and flaccid leaves.
A grew the same way as a normal plant irrigated with normal water would, just as we expected in our hypothesis. It did not grow very tall, as you can see, but it was healthy and had nice looking leaves. As mentioned, A was the only one where algae could grow. Both in B and C, no algae were found. If we were to do this experiment again, we would use vegetables instead of sunflowers, just to see how the contaminated groundwater would affect the plants that we eat, and maybe we would have a taste test to see if it affected the taste. Oh. So maybe you're thinking, what will they do with the toxic waste they made in those containers? Well, we could just throw it it to the neighbor's garden and let it be their problem. But then this presentation would have no point. Of course, we've thought of a way of how we're going to get rid of our experiment.
So, after we're finished with this project, we will of course give up the plants in the most environmentally correct way during the following. So first of all, we'll start by sorting out all the batteries from the dirt and turn them in on the waste dumping center. The containers with the batteries, windshield washes, engine oil, and petrol have been in will also be turned in for deposit. The bottles that have been used as water containers, these ones, will be turned in at the waste dumping center also. Glass containers, which was only with clean drinking water, emptied out in the garden. And the containers will be turned in at the waste dumping center again, and the plastic container, just like we found it at the start of our project.
Thank you for listening to our science fair.